Well, Texas Tech is about to face their toughest opponent of the season, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. What do the Knights do to, let's be honest, keep it competitive? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green, and as always, we're sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, FanDuel has been great to all of you. They've been great to us this year, and they've got the best lines out there for anything you want to bet. College football, college basketball, NFL, NBA. You can find the best lines on FanDuel this week. UCF is going into a hostile environment, and they are 23.5-point underdogs. If you think the game will be closer, go to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and a proud sponsor of the Charge On podcast. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Again, we usually post Thursdays for game week. This is a little bit later. I apologize. That's on us. That's on me. Was traveling for work all week. Did not have time this week to record a podcast. And that's kind of why it's coming today. We're recording this Friday morning. We'll be getting it up to you Friday afternoon for a game that, I'm going to be honest, a lot of people are not looking forward to. And I'll be honest, me included. Listen, last week took the wind out of all of the sails. At the end of the day, UCF most likely will finish the season with 5 wins. Albeit them beating Oklahoma State next week, right? But it took a lot of the wind out of the sails because there's the thought of, okay, you need 2 wins. If you get 2 wins, you go to a bowl game. And we go bowling. We have a nice final game of the year. And, we go from there. Well, you lost to Kansas, which is a game that you could have had. You lost to Cincinnati, which wasn't a game you should have had, but you could have. And then you lose in the space game to Houston in a game that, again, arguably you should have won. So now it's kind of you're playing 2 top 15 teams in the final 3 weeks, and you're playing the worst team in the Big 12. So again, UCF should get to 5 wins. Well, you're playing, in my opinion, one of the best teams in the country. I said from the start of the year, I thought Texas Tech was the best team in the Big 12. They are finally everybody in America is finally hopping on that bandwagon, hopping on that train. I think they are the most talented. I think they can make a run for the college football playoff because I think they are very deep at every position. And UCF is unfortunately not getting them at home, which I don't think would matter in general, but they get them on the road. Heading to Lubbock, hostile environment against the number 6 team in the country. Number 6 team in the country. Now, I think, again, I want to bring up Scott Frost's comments about not skipping steps. Nothing good came easy, and you have to build it. And I agree with all that. And that's why there's not really a part of me that's like up in arms. Like, I think all in all, when you get to the end of the season, we're going to look back and say it was a positive year. They developed the culture, which I think was number 1. Like, there is a culture with UCF. There is. That they've really developed. Do more with less. Hard-nosed football players that never quit attitude. And listen, I think you built that. Defensively, I think you have figured out what your defensive identity is moving forward. I think Alex Grinch has done an incredible job. I think that part and that side of the football is really going to be able to propel UCF when they are ready. Offensively is the thing that needs to be worked on. And I think in the next month, you're going to hear a lot of talk from this podcast about the plans and kind of what UCF is going to be going after. And I think that's going to be really exciting, especially with signing day and all that stuff. But ultimately, you completed, regardless of if you have a bowl game or not, you completed the pillars of what you ultimately want to accomplish or wanted to accomplish this season, except the bowl game. Now let's kind of talk about what this means for the final 3 weeks. And some questions that, listen, I want it to be answered. how far away are you? Texas Tech is favored by 23.5. They've only lost one game, and they were playing with a backup quarterback for the one game that they lost. And they lost that game by 4. And it was at Arizona State. So it wasn't at home. In their home games, if you go look at their home games, I mean, I don't think they've won a game by less than, really the BYU game was the closest game they've won at home, and that still wasn't even close. That was a 22-point win. They beat Oklahoma State 42-0 at home. They beat Kansas 42-17 at home. They beat Oregon State 45-14 at home. And then Kent State and AR Pine Bluff. Like, they demolished teams at home. And even on the road, they demolished teams. Like, this is by far and away. And I knew it last week. I forgot who asked me. I think it was on our post-game show for Houston. Somebody asked me, who do you think is going to win against Texas Tech and BYU? And I said, I think Texas Tech smokes them. Not that I don't think BYU is a good team. UCF will lose BYU by a couple touchdowns. Probably 2 or 3. But Texas Tech is a different beast in the Big 12 this year. They are. They've got the best all-around roster. And I want to see Texas Tech do well. Ultimately, whoever comes out of the Big 12, you want them to go make a run. Hell, if BYU can finish the season strong and they got a chance to make it to the playoff, there could be 2 Big 12 teams in the playoff. So when we're talking about that, that is good for UCF. But unfortunately, at UCF's expense, they have to play these 2 teams. Now, let's start with this is going to be a Texas Tech preview. Obviously, Nick is not with me. Really, it just didn't work out schedule-wise because I've been everywhere. And let's be real. This is probably the first episode that I've ever done. And this is saying a lot because there's been some episodes where we've said UCF has no shot. Oklahoma was one of them a couple years ago when they played Dylan Gabriel. There's been a couple that we've said UCF has no shot. This is the one episode that I think I can and I don't mean to be negative, and I don't want you guys hating and being upset. But I think we all feel it. This is the one episode UCF has 0 chance at winning this game. 0. They have to play the most perfect game possible to beat Texas Tech tomorrow. That very rarely in football do you have a game where you can just say, yeah, 0% chance that they have a chance. My big question, genuinely, is who is going to be the starting quarterback. Now, it might be Taven Jackson. I'm not going to front. I would not throw Davi Belfort out there to play a whole game against Texas Tech. I don't think that would help his confidence by any means. But here's my thing. If you know that Taven Jackson is not going to be your quarterback for 2026, which I think by all accounts, that is going to be the case. I do not see Taven Jackson being the quarterback next year. I believe UCF is going to go into the portal and get a guy, or they might start a true freshman. Those are, I think, the options there. I do not think the quarterback for UCF next season is on this roster. Now, there's a caveat to that. Davi Belfort. Is Davi Belfort a potential starter next year? I would say no, but at the end of the day, we haven't really seen him play. We've seen a couple snaps here or there. We saw last week, obviously. And kid's got potential. That's why you look at it and you say he can run the ball. Haven't really seen him throw it too much, so that there is a caveat there. But you kind of go in, you go through the motions, you say, okay, if Taven Jackson has 0% chance, Jakari's been banged up, Cam Fancher's out for the year, basically. Should we not go and try and see? Just throw him out there against the number 6 team in the country and see what he can do. If he stays competitive, then you could put him in that conversation next year. And if he gets blown out, you can't really put too much into it. Then you start him against Oklahoma State, see what he does against a bad team, and then you have a good idea of, okay, he hasn't really played that much. Get him some reps and see what happens. I don't see a reason to play Taven Jackson unless you are basically just trying to have the idea of being competitive. Because yes, at the end of the day, if you were to ask me who's the best quarterback on your roster as of this moment, yeah, it's Taven Jackson. Taven Jackson is the best quarterback. but he's not going to be your starter next year. Davi's young. He's got potential. Throw him out there, see what happens. You've got nothing to lose. You're playing a number 6 team in the country. They're probably going to a college football playoff. They're probably going to win the Big 12, and you're fighting for a 5th win. So I believe Taven Jackson will start, but I would be totally fine and comfortable with Davi Belfort starting. And to be fair, I'd be fine with Taven starting and then you pulling him pretty quickly and putting Davi in if the first 2 drives or 3 drives just don't go anywhere. Defensively, I think this is going to be the game where you guys look at if UCF's defense can hold this team to under 30, can hold Texas Tech to under 30, which is kind of our benchmark for this UCF defense. If you hold them under 30, you give them a chance, which, granted, again, the offense isn't good enough, so it doesn't really matter regardless. But if the UCF defense can hold Texas Tech to under 30, that is where you almost sell the future of the UCF defense. Gives me confidence for transfers coming in. They already re-signed a bunch of the guys on the defense. The UCF defense might be the savior for UCF moving forward. Now let's go to Texas Tech. Man, Lee Hunter made a good decision leaving UCF because this team is ridiculous. They're ridiculous. They really do everything good. Baron Morton is a really good, serviceable quarterback. I think he's not really going to lose you games. He got 16 touchdowns, 4 picks. Has only been sacked 12 times this year. There is that. They've had to play Will Hammond for a couple games because Morton was out. They played Mitch Griffiths, which, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm just looking at this part now, but from Wake Forest. So he played the first 3 games in garbage time. So they played 3 quarterbacks. Granted, again, Mitch hasn't played in a minute, but Will Hammond was their backup quarterback. Cameron Dickey at running back, hell of a back. I watched him a lot last week against BYU. He had a day. Has 11 touchdowns on the year. Jacoby Williams, another guy that can really beat you. The good kind of thing is Baron Morton, obviously, he's not really a runner of the football. He is a pocket passer, whereas Will Hammond was more, the running type. So I think that will help UCF on defense because, it's facing the running quarterbacks that kind of have hurt them a little bit this year, not too much. But there is that kind of aspect to it. Caleb Douglas is their wide receiver 1. But again, I think you can kind of go down their list and it's pretty even. You have Coy Eakin, who's got 512 receiving yards. Caleb Douglas has 606. Reggie Virgil, who I'm a big fan of Reggie Virgil, 489 yards. Terrence Carter's the tight end, 419 yards. So you can see, it's pretty even among the top 4 or 5 guys. And then even touchdowns. You look at the top 4 or 5 guys. 5, 4, 5, 5. This is where an offense can be explosive. And I think this is where you start looking at UCF and you're saying, okay, how do we get to where Texas Tech is? Which is tough because Texas Tech has a lot of money. They're able to get a lot of guys. But UCF's offense, you can kind of see what they want to do is spread the ball around. They want to get multiple guys involved. They don't want to have 1 or 2. And I think this is where the elite teams are. You don't have just a elite 1 wide receiver. You have 3 really good wide receivers and a really good tight end and a really good running back that if one guy's off, you've got so many other options. So for this UCF team, you see it, right? Granted, I'm not trying to compare UCF's offense to Texas Tech's. They're not on the same planet right now. But there's not a clear-cut 1A. What UCF wants to do is have a 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D so that you become way more lethal. Way more lethal. Defensively, again, they're really solid. Lee Hunter, just because, again, I think UCF fans are going to want to know. If you look at his stats from the year, again, he's having, realistically, it's not as good of a season as he's had compared to his seasons with UCF or UCF the last 2 years. But Lee Hunter is going to be a 2nd round, 3rd round NFL draft pick. So there is that aspect. But This Texas Tech defense, especially the defensive line, is legit. If you thought UCF couldn't run the football in general, I'm intrigued to see the line this tomorrow. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat. It's not going to be pretty. It's not. UCF going on the road again, and as we know, and not again to just say the obvious, UCF has not been good on the road at all. Usually they're not, but this season just alone, they've got to be one of the worst road teams in the country. They are a completely different team, and again, teams play worse on the road. It's a known thing that playing in a road environment is much more challenging, much more difficult. But the Baylor game proved to you just how bad it is. That UCF, they just don't know how to execute. And I think that's something that I do think, if we're talking about a negative, a big negative, and there's some negatives of the season in general, but I would say a solid negative that I think Scott Frost needs to figure out how to, I'd say coach better and prepare better, is getting his players ready to go on the road. Because when you build this thing, you're going to need to win on the road to get to where you want to go. And I think that was kind of the big negative of the Gus Malzahn era, is he was able to get players ready to play on the road, but there'd just be too many mistakes to overcome. I think to be an elite team in college football, you need to just find ways to win on the road, which is tough. You don't need to play your best game. You don't. And that's, I think, the thing that people misconstrue. You don't need to play your best game on the road. You just need to make less mistakes than UCF is making right now. If you're competitive and you stay in it long enough, the other team will maybe make a mistake here or there, and then that opens your window. UCF does not leave themselves any room. Like against Cincinnati, you can make the argument UCF could have won that game. If they had any resemblance of an offense, they could have won that game. The problem is they didn't, and you lose by 9, and really a game that was never really close, but it could have been, because UCF's defense played out of their mind. So this is where we start looking towards the future and saying Scott Frost needs to find a better way to get his team more prepared to play on the road. At home, you're not getting a screaming crowd on offense. On the road, you're getting a bunch of screaming fans whenever you're getting the ball. For some reason, the execution is just not there. And again, if you thought the last 3 road games were bad, this one most likely will be worse. Like, it's going to be the toughest crowd they play in all year. It is 3 games left against the number 6 team in the country. Lubbock's going to be rocking. And you've got a team that hasn't won a game in a couple weeks. They've got 4 wins on the year, and they've known that they've struggled on the road. On top of, your starting center is out. You've got a bunch of guys kind of dinged up. It's just, and probably Cam Kinney starting at center. Like, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. And I hate to be negative. I really don't want to. And again, I think if you were to ask me, Sean, what is your goal for this game? Like, what do you want to see out of UCF versus Texas Tech? I want them to lose by 2 touchdowns. If they lose by 2 touchdowns, I'll be happy. I'll be thrilled. If UCF can show some resemblance of an offense on the road, put up points against this Texas Tech defense, I'll be thrilled. I'll be thrilled. But I think that's where, like, this is a different animal. This is not Oklahoma State from a couple years ago, because that was at home. It was space game. It was raining. Like, there was so much going against Oklahoma State that game. This is not Oklahoma State. This is Texas Tech in the year 2025, number 6 team in the country, that has all around one of the best rosters in college football. A roster that I believe could make it all the way. And I want them to. I do. I want Texas Tech and BYU to make it very far. But unfortunately, UCF is in their way. And this is where I guess I can get into predictions. Again, I'm not going to make this a hour-long, our normal 45-minute episode, which I think that's why it's good that Nick is not on. because we'd make it a 45-minute episode. And I think and again, this is very negative. This is a very negative episode. And I apologize. I think let's just talk positive before. If they can keep it within 14, I'll be happy. If we can show some resemblance of a run game, I'll be thrilled. Like, the goal of this game is to show some improvement in the areas that you've lacked in against the best team in the conference. If you can do that, you're signing me up for okay. Like, everything's working good. And not that if it goes bad, I'm going to be like, this is going to be a rough sled. Like, Scott Frost doesn't have this team ready. Like, no. At the end of the day, we're just hoping for a competitive atmosphere. We're hoping for a competitive game. If it's the Baylor game from a couple weeks ago, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you will turn the game off, but I can't because we're doing a live watch along, which, yay me. But no, let's get into predictions. The line is 23.5 Texas Tech. I will be taking that line. I'm going to say Texas Tech. Again, I think the defense is not going to be I think the defense is going to stay strong. I think I'll probably go Texas Tech 30. I'll go 34-10. 34-10, Texas Tech. Wait, is that? Yeah, that'd be 24 points. I did do my math there. So I think it's just at the line. I think it's a good line. Look, I think at some point there's going to be if the game's over pretty quickly, they just let the clock roll down. And again, I would love it to be like 34-20. That'd be great. I would love that. For UCF, I think that'd be not a morale booster per se, but hey, like, we just kind of kept it semi-competitive with the number 6 team in the country. We didn't let them roll over us. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Just because, not that I'm saying UCF is just not that talented. I don't agree with that sentiment. I think they've lost some games that they should have won. My issue is I just don't think they can put it together on the road right now. I think I hope for our sake it's a year 2 thing where next year they kind of figure out how to win a couple more games and it's on the road. So that's my prediction. 34-10, not to bury the lead. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Charge On. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that you do. We really appreciate it. And as always, we're sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, like I said, it is the best place for any of the lines you want to bet on. College football, NFL, NBA, college basketball, hockey, whatever you want to bet on, FanDuel has the best lines to do it. They have the best lines for UCF this weekend. So if you want to bet on anything the rest of this college football season, head to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, tomorrow we will be doing our Charge On live watch along for UCF versus Texas Tech. The game is at 3:30, so come in over here at around 3:15 and hang out with me for the entire game. It's going to be great because it's going to be a lot of healing for us. It's going to be a lot of laughs when stuff's not going right. Hopefully I can keep you guys entertained. But if you want to watch with us, you are more than welcome to come over to the Charge On channel, and we'll be putting on that tomorrow. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. That's going to do it. This has been Charge On, presented by FanDuel. We will see you guys tomorrow.